Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando nesikhombise lona lingaphezulu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupporte njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla. Nama kuthiwa lokhu usuku lingafiki. Basho lolu suku olufike namuhla. Sizokhumbula ukuthi ngomhla ka6 uLieutenant General Mkhwanazi waba ne-media briefing. Ngomhla ka13 uPresident Ramaphosa wamemezela ukuthi udecide ukuthi ngcono kube khona i-Commission of Inquiry, Judicial Commission of Inquiry ezobe iholwa uJustice Madlanga, njengoba sesibiza ngeMadlanga Commission njengoba iholwa nguye. Sabikela ukuthi izoqala ngomhla ka1 September ama-public hearings wayo. Kodwa sathola ukuthi cha ngeke kusenzeka ngoba kukhona izinto ezingakalungiseki kahle in terms of infrastructure. Kuthe kusenjalo basazisa ukuthi izoqala ngomhla ka17 okuwusuku lwanamuhla. Ngempela ke namuhla ufikile uGeneral Mkhwanazi. Ngifisa ukucaphuna into ezimbalwa nje eyishiwo kuningi kakhulu okushiwo lapha kodwa bekusesekuqaleni. Futhi iphathi efike ngaba interested kuyo ila achaze khona ukuthi kungani akhethe ukwenza i-media briefing. Sizokhumbula ukuthi ngalo usuku lomhla ka6 kwavela abantu abanjengombalula Paul Sullivan bathi no kune procedure, kodwa ukuthi uMkhwanazi ayeqe yonke le procedure avela akhethe ukuyokwenza i-media briefing kwakungani. Sizoqala lapho kodwa ngifisa ukukuvezela nje into ezimbalwa ayishilo ikakhulukazi ile ukuthi kungani enza i-media briefing nala aveza khona ukugcambukela kuka Minister Senzo Mchunu. Mhlambe bese siyayivala ivideo ba angifuni ukukhuluma isikhathi eside yinde kakhulu futhi abanye bayibonile ngenzela laba abangayibonanga sixoxe nje ngalento le. Ngiyafisa ukuza ukuphala kwakho la ku comment section. Athi ngikucaphunele nje specifically la azochaza khona ukuthi kungani athatha igxathu lokuthi akenza i-media briefing angalandeli i-procedure. Ngiyenza ngicover leli phuzu ngoba into yokuqala umbalula ayikhuluma ngalo leyasuku.
27 January 2025 is the next date of relevance on which Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi appeared on EWN, where he made for the first time allegations of political interference and criminal infiltration in SAPS and in the criminal justice system. And on the 5th of March 2025, the General appeared before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on the Police, where he repeated allegations of political interference and criminal infiltration in SAPS and the criminal justice system.
Abalekile lama data amabili ngoba le yokuqala ila ayikhuluma ne-EWN khona, ile athi mayikhuluma khona azasho ukuthi cha uBrown Mokhotsi ngesikhathi exhumana naye ezekhipha ifoni yakhe athi nanka ama message ku WhatsApp. Bese date yesibili ila esekhuluma khona eParliament ngomhla ka5 kuMarch. Ibalekile le part ngoba ngenxa yokungapheka attention ngalama date azibalulile lezinto lapha aziveze khona lezinto, ikona lokho okugcine kwaholela ekuthenini agcine senze i-media briefing kodwa simcaphuneke sizwe.
We got the police and the likes.
Thank you for that, General, and thank you for introducing yourself to members of the Commission. Now to turn to the business of the day. Please refer to file 1 now, to your statement, and I would like us to pick up this conversation from your paragraph 6. In paragraph 6, as I understand it, you seem to qualify the testimony you are about to give, and I would like you to explain to the commissioners the extent of that qualification and the explanation of the nature of the testimony and evidence that will be tendered in this commission.
Then, Commissioner, it is important for the Commissioner and the general public at this juncture to understand the main function of the South African Police Service, which is primary to investigate a crime that has been committed. So in the course of our investigation and analysis, as well as the collection of evidence that we get, the information and evidence that we get, the patterns are established to which further the more detailed investigations may be warranted. To the extent that these patterns are established, the potential threat to the independence and the proper functioning of the justice system, these are flagged and pursued where required. In the results, a number of allegations I advanced during that press briefing are premised on and intended to draw the attention to establish and to the developed pattern which enjoined us all to urgently act as law enforcement as well as the country to effectively respond to the threats that have been established during the course of the investigation.
And as you were not here, the evidence leader pointed out that we are here today because of the press statement and the press briefing, the press statement you delivered on the 6th of July that was published to the country at wide. You deal with this aspect from your paragraph 7. If you could have regard there too. And to this end, you have an annexure there referred to as MK2, and for reference that would appear at page 103 of file 2. And at 104, my apologies, 103, yes, the actual document starts at 104. Could you give the Commission a brief background to how that document and subsequent briefing came about?
Commissioner, on the 6th of July, when I made this address before the South Africans, it was because I wanted to inform the public about the level of challenges that we're experiencing as a South African Police Service in relation to the work we do as the police, which involve criminality and the political interference on the work that we do as the police, which will also include corruption within the value chain of the justice system, which we are part of as law enforcement. That's why the presentation that is attached here will be used as a reference, which is marked. I'm not going to refer to all of them, but by and large, commissioners, that was to brief the nation to understand what challenges are we facing as a South African Police Service.
Isigaba sokuqala ebengifisa ukuziveza yilesi, njengoba esechazile ukuthi kungani akhethe ukwenza i-media briefing. Khumbula ukuthi u-Advocate Terry Mutawa esiqale ngaye, uqale wafunda ama-date ukuthi ngomhla ka-27 ukhulume ne-EWN ku-Eyewitness News. Waziveza lezi zinto, wakuveza kodwa wangenaba, kodwa wachaza ukuthi ukuhlakazwa kwe-Political Killing Task Team engabizwanga yena ukuthi akabrief uminister bese kubonakala ukuthi kwenziwa njani ngamadocket, bese kuvele kuthiwa nje ihlakaza i-Political Killing Task Team, kwenza ukuthi angakhululeki. Kuyamsolisa ngoba u-National Commissioner akanalo ilungelo lokuvimba uconstable uma ngabe ebhizi ne-investigation, kodwa lokuthiwa nje shiyani phansi investigation kwenza ukuthi asole, azibuze ukuthi kungani. Then ngomhla ka-5 kuMarch futhi uyakuchaza ukuthi umhla ka-5 kuMarch wazicelela yena ku-chairperson u-Ian Cameron ukuthi ucela ukuba ingxenye ye-portfolio committee, ngoba wayengeyona ingxenye yangokohlelo lwakhona. kodwa kwakufuneka ayichaze le nto, ila ayichaza khona ilapho futhi uminister aphika khona ukuthi uyamazi uBrian Mkhwanazi. So ilokho kuholele ekuthenini mayibona ukuthi kuthulekile, wayesebona ukuthi no, akazise abantu base-South Africa ukuthi yimaphi ama-challenges ababhekene nawo njengamaphoyisa. Iphathi yokuqala le bengifisa ukuyiveza. Manje sengifisa singene odabeni elithinta uminister Senzo Mchunu. Yinde kakhulu le media briefing. About 6 hours. Kodwa socaphuna le party le engifisa nje ukuthi ayikhave ethinta uminister Senzo Mchunu bese siyayivala ivideo.
2nd of January 2025, beg your pardon. I received a WhatsApp message from a friend who sent me what looks like a letter that was signed by the Minister of Police disestablishing the political killings task team.
You say in that paragraph that you had not received formal communication in this regard.
That is true, Commissioner. I had not received any communication from anyone with regard to the disestablishment of the team.
So you established on the 2nd of something that had transpired involving the task team before the 2nd, but you did not do so formally. You learned through a friend, so you say.
That is correct, Commissioner. I learned through a WhatsApp message with a copy of the letter that was sent by a friend.
What were the implications? What was your understanding of the implications of the letter that you received? What is the notion of the disestablishment of the task team, and what are the implications thereof?
Well, the implications were going to be severe, Commissioner, because this is a team that was formed in 2018, where the executive or the head of the executive, which is the president of the country, was involved. A group of ministers, which we refer to as the Interministerial Committee, were overseeing the work of this team. Different steering committees that were charged with the responsibility to oversee the work of the team, as well as, more importantly, the budget, the financial cost that was given to the team. But most critical, Commissioners, are the investigations that some of them were already in court and some of them were underway, and the clients, which is the community out there, the victims of crime, the families of the victims of crime that needed closure with regard to the work that the team was doing, were going to be affected by this letter. That's why I was surprised, because getting it from a private person who's not involved in police operations was a surprise.
And
before, I'm sorry.
Yes, Chair.
Before you go on, did the minister have the power to disband the PKTT? If he did, where did the power derive from?
Commissioner, when I started earlier, I had outlined, invited the commissioners to read the sections of the Constitution of the Republic on the role of the minister or the member of cabinet, which is the Minister of Police.
I remember the main thing you stated was that the minister creates or stipulates the policy. That's the main thing I heard. So that's why I'm now asking the question, because
Yes.
I don't think disbanding the PKTT would be something relating to policy.
No, definitely, that is the only authority that the Minister of Police has in terms of policy and direction, but not on operational matters. That's what, it's another implication of the letter as it was signed by the minister talking to the operational works of the police.
I may be going ahead of where you and Advocate Sello SC are, but I'm interested to know why there would then have been compliance with the instruction to disband if, as you say, this did not fall within the remit of the minister?
Commissioner, I had indicated when I presented since this morning that the team was funded and the finance was running up until the end of the financial year, which is the 30th of March 2025. So the letter comes in between that. I've indicated the success rate of the team and the fact that there were still cases that were in court. And a matter of fact, as the Interministerial Committee continuously receiving reports, I think the last report will have been given to them in September of 2023, prior to the national elections. That was the last time that executive interacted with the team. So the letter coming up on the 2nd of January, written in this fashion, it created a bit of a problem for me because I did not understand the background where it comes from. But I guess as we go through with the investigation, we will be able to express some of the challenges that we experience as a result of that letter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps, and then to just close up that point, you have attached the letter itself to your statement. You make reference to that at paragraph 128 at page 44. It is annexure MK9, and it starts at page 184 of file 2. So why don't we go to the letter and concluding perhaps your answer to the chair. Looking at the letter, if we go to the second page, I see it is signed by the Minister of Police, Mr. Mchunu. It's dated the 31st of December 2024. Is that the letter that you say you received on the 2nd through a friend, on WhatsApp communication?
That is correct.
Okay. Looking at that letter, I see it covers 3 major issues. The first, and they're numbered. First relates to the filling of posts in the intelligence division. Is that an aspect that is relevant to your operations, both as a political killings task team or as the provincial commissioner? Would that fall within your remit? Item 1.
The filling of vacancies of crime intelligence.
Yes.
It is a responsibility of the divisional commissioner, who is Lieutenant General Khumalo, together with the National Commission. However, the crime intelligence in each province ought to have the leader,
yes,
which provides services to the province. So therefore, in that, it will affect me as a provincial commissioner.
Now, based on this letter, were you directly impacted by the instruction to suspend the filling of posts within the intelligence division in KZN specifically? Were you directly impacted? By you, I mean the province and you.
Yes, commissioners, the impact of this is severe. We already have been trying to put some reforms within crime intelligence in order to respond to the growing crime levels that we're experiencing in the country. You'll recall, Commissioner, in 2021, July unrest, and subsequent to that, the Human Rights Commission that conducted hearing. The level of intelligence or the poor performance of intelligence was highlighted during the Human Rights Commission, and the recommendation was that we need to improve in this regard. So therefore, for us not to fill up vacancies that are critical within the space was going to have an impact in our efforts to fight crime and maintaining public order in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
The next item is under 2, it's headed ports of entry. My reading of that part of the letter is that the minister was calling for a report in regard to border management. Do you read it the same?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and the third then is headed political killings task team. And perhaps it's only appropriate that you read what the minister's directive as reflected therein into the record, and that would part answer, I believe, the question posed by the chair.
The letter is on this paragraph, if I may quote, Political Killings Task Team. In 2019, a directive was made to the National Commissioner of Police following the Mkhwanazi Commission report, even though not flowing directly from such, that an interministerial task force be established. The key mandate was to stop, investigate, resolved, unresolved matters of politicians in the country, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. My observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. I therefore direct that the Political Killings Task Team be disestablished immediately. Further, that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the Minister by the 20th of January 2025. The final and closing report must be submitted to the Ministry's Management Executive Committee meeting late January 2025, the date of which will be communicated as soon as possible. Yours sincerely, Minister of Police, Mr. E.S. Mchunu, MP.
Let me ask this direct question, General. Is this a policy or a policing issue, and why?
Commissioner, as in my opinion, views and experience I have in the police of over 30 years, this is a letter that is operational, not policy. It talks to the operational work of the police, of the SAPS, mainly so because this is one team that has been successful out of the 11 teams that are running at national level. But it is the only team that receives this type of letter. So I felt that this is an operational thing, notwithstanding the fact that there are other background references in terms of the establishment of this team that were omitted, perhaps were not known to the Minister, the reason of which I think he's in a better position to explain.
Thank you, Chair. I know further on in your statement you deal with these issues, but I would like to invite you to give a preliminary response to the statement made by the Minister in the letter, and I quote, "My observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa." Do you have any comment to that statement?
Commissioner, I disagree with the assessment of the Minister in this regard. I have displayed earlier today, also in the statement, previous pages, the work that the team have done, the success rate, the performance that influence the extra work to be given to the team, which will include the work in the Eastern Cape, as well as traditional leadership. So for a minister to reach this conclusion, worse, because the minister has not received a formal briefing on the work that this team is doing. So to me, it was a wrong conclusion that the minister has reached, which is why it became a matter of concern.
I think somewhere in your statement, but as part of that same theme, you say that the disbandment would have resulted in all dockers having to be sent to different corners within KwaZulu-Natal to be handled by individual investigators who would no longer have the benefit of this integrated approach to one investigating and also two, to prosecution, which, according to your statement, would have been disadvantageous to the process.
That is correct, Commissioner. I can agree with you more. The minister's conclusion of saying that the team does not any value in policing in South Africa was misplaced. It is my belief that perhaps, as I had said in the public, in the very same month of January, that someone influenced the minister to do this.
Yes. Thank you. General, you say that at the time of this letter, the minister had not received a formal briefing on the work of the task team. You say formal. Had he received any briefing at all from you in particular?
Commissioner, when the minister arrived, I cannot remember the date when he was appointed, he had invited the police management to the South African Police Service Academy at Pretoria West, where presentations were given to the minister. But that was strategic presentation that were given to the minister, not specifics on operational matters. I had an opportunity also to stand, take a podium there and present to the minister. One of the remarks I made in my presentation to him was to invite him to visit KZN so that he get to experience some of the operational challenges that we have as a province, especially because he's a resident of the very same province. So it was in a part of my presentation when I was talking to him. So, but in a formal briefing, as it was done during the IMC of the previous administration, there was never such a briefing. There was never such an opportunity presented for a formal briefing to be made to outline in details of what the team has achieved up until the time when he wrote this letter. Actually, up to date, he has never had that platform.
And perhaps if I may just follow up on that. Earlier in the morning, you, in discussion of the IMC, you stated that the Minister of Police is the chair of that committee. Is that correct? That
is correct. Is the chair of the committee.
Do you know who calls for the meetings of that committee?
Although I will not necessarily know between the ministries how they communicate, but from the police, we'll always get correspondence coming from the Minister of Police as a chairperson convening such a briefing session. So that will go via the National Commissioner's Office and it will be brought to us so that we prepare for that briefing and the date when the briefing is going to take place.
Since the Minister Mchunu assumed office, I think it was May 2024, have you received such an invitation?
We have never received an invitation at all.
Getting back to your statement then from paragraph 126. From 126, you engage with the steps you took upon learning of the minister's decision on the 2nd of December, albeit through a friend. Can we talk about the immediate steps you took upon learning of the minister's decision? Where we started paragraph 126 of your statement.
Yes.
Ms. Silo, don't you mean paragraph 123?
I do mean paragraph 123 indeed. Thank you, Commissioner. my page flipped. It's marked for another purpose. It is 123. I apologize, General, for the confusion. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner. Perhaps maybe I must pause to mention something that perhaps I did not include on my statement, that upon receipt of this WhatsApp message with a letter, the first point of contact was to engage the Chief of Staff at the Minister's office. Mr. Nkabinde is a well-known individual to me. I personally called him, understanding that there can never be any letter signed by the minister that does not pass his desk, or at least pass his hand. So I asked about it, whether is he aware, or maybe it's just a fake letter that is created by someone and is circulating. So I asked him if he's aware of such a letter that is disestablishing the team. And his response was yes, he is aware of the letter. In actual fact, his words were, the letter has been going back and forth. Someone crafting it, sending it to the minister, has been corrected. Eventually, it was put under pressure to dispatch it to the Office of the National Commissioner. So the letter, as I saw it, it's a correct letter that was signed by the Minister of Police. So from there, because it was unofficial when I was talking to him when he gave me the response, I then felt at the time what had confused me the most, Commissioner, is because I will expect, obviously, the letters addressed to the National Commissioner, that the National Commissioner will communicate with me about this. I took an opportunity to call him. The National Commissioner must indicate, Commissioner, that he was on leave at the time when I received this letter, when I saw this letter. He was on vacation leave. I cannot remember exact date. It could have been a Tuesday, but it was during the week when this letter came out. A weekend prior to that, which was a Saturday, the National Commissioner and the Minister of Police had visited KwaZulu-Natal province to come and support us as we were mourning the death of one of our colleagues. So there was a funeral that took place at the area of Mpangeni in KwaZulu-Natal. It's a Saturday. And when the funeral ended, the minister, in his own words, was that he's going to rest in the province, he's going to be around the province, so I must be aware of that. And the National Commissioner was going to be starting his leave on Monday, so we all went separate ways. National Commissioner traveled to Pretoria that Saturday evening, and the minister will have gone to his residence in KwaZulu-Natal. It's a Saturday. Sunday goes by, the Monday, I cannot remember the date, but 2 or 3 days later, the letter surfaced. So the National Commissioner has just taken leave. So that what troubled me, because I find it odd that you cannot have a National Commissioner or the minister writing a letter to the National Commissioner that has got such content and these allegations, if the minister had not discussed this with the National Commissioner somewhere before. Perhaps it's just formalizing the communication that he had had with the National Commissioner. That's why then I took a decision to contact the National Commissioner to try and establish from him whether is he aware about this letter, has he been told about this disestablishment. And the National Commissioner's response was that he is on leave, which his leave is going to end on the 14th of January, and he hasn't had an opportunity to consider the content of the letter. But he had nothing to do with the disbandment of this political killings task team. And he also informed me that the Minister of Police has never sought his advice before taking this decision. So I also advised him that I also had not been engaged about the decision of the minister. So that is the first engagement I had with the National Commissioner as he was on leave.
He was still on leave at the time you had that engagement?
That is correct.
Before then we discuss what you did next, can I go back to an issue you raised and you said it's not part of your statement? And that relates to your contact with the Chief of Staff in the Minister's office. And if I recall correctly, you said the Chief of Staff informed you that the letter was going to and fro. I think those are the words you used. Do you recall that?
That's correct.
What do you know between who that letter was going to and fro?
Commissioners, I did not ask him who are these back and forth, but my conclusion was that the drafters of the letter were on the other side of the country.
Country, you said?
The other side of the country, because the minister was in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
So the drafters will have been elsewhere, not together with the minister. And the correspondence will have gone to the chief of staff, who then directs it to the minister. And perhaps the minister will not be happy with some content and he will bring it back to the chief of staff, and the chief of staff will send it to the drafters. That's why the back and forth statement come from. That is my assumption. Okay. And eventually, after the signature was placed on the document, then the chief of staff was, on his own words, pressured to make sure that the National Commissioner's Office receives and acknowledges the receipt on the letter on the day. So he never told me who pressured him to do that. So I guess the investigation will be able to discover where did the letter originate from before the minister signs it.
The pressure was on the chief of staff.
That is correct, Commissioner, according to his own words.
Over what period, if you know, was the minister in KZN? I know from the time of the funeral. When was the funeral? And do you know up to what point?
I do not know the duration that the minister was in KZN for, but actually I don't even know when he arrived in KZN, but the funeral was on the Saturday, which was the last Saturday of December. The funeral was on that Saturday in KwaZulu-Natal, and on the 2nd is when this letter was signed. And when we separated on the day of the funeral, the minister told me that he's going to be in the province. So whether he had left the province maybe between the funeral day and the date of the letter, I do not know.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair. So the National Commissioner was not able to shed any better light on the letter because he says he wasn't aware of it, he was not engaged before it was crafted and dispatched, and he didn't know anything about it. That's what you... What then did you do next?
Commissioners, I made a suggestion to the National Commissioner that he must speak to the minister in order to be able to establish the factors that made the minister to consider arriving in this conclusion and the drastic decision to disestablish the team. Because in my views, it was an irrational and irregular. The decision was going to have a serious impact, as I said, in terms of the investigation of crime and those cases that were before the team. And also in the main, because I, as per the Constitution, given the responsibility to make sure that policing is done in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and the population of over 12.5 million, we're going to look at me as having failed them. So the consequence of a sudden stop of investigation was going to impact on us as the South African Police Service in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and myself as a person responsible for the work that needed to be done.
And what, do you know whether or not the National Commissioner acted on your request to engage the minister and establish the issues that you've highlighted?
Well, I did not hear from the National Commission after that, Commissioners, as the time were progressing. I did not, it never really came back to me to tell me what is the next course of action, but it continuously signs off the extension of the deployment of the team in the province, regardless of the letter.
And you indicate that you took some resolutions following the National Commissioner's failure to report back to you on any contact and conversation he may have had with the minister. What were those steps you took?
Part of the, if I hear the question correct, Commissioner, on what I did after speaking to the National Commissioner, and National Commissioner not able to come back to me.
Yes.
I said earlier I had engagement with the Chief of Staff right at the beginning because he's a person I knew very well. And I even requested the Chief of Staff that he must try and arrange a meeting with the Minister so that we can be able to tell the Minister about the consequence of the letter that he has written. And after engaging with the National Commissioner, I did not leave it there. I continuously tried different individuals outside the structure of government, people that I thought the Minister might listen to. I tried to engage them, to try and reach out to the Minister so that we can talk about this. But that did not give me any success. I then took a decision to engage the Minister directly in the form of a WhatsApp that I sent him. He acknowledged that and he was to set up a meeting, but to date, that meeting never materialized.
Aya sibambe le video la. Bengingahlosile ukuthi beyinde kodwa bengifisa ukuthi yonke lento ebibalekile thinta uMinister Senzo Mchunu. Ngoba sekufika isikhathi manje sokuthi lezi insola zibeke uGeneral Mkhwanazi afaka ubufakazi, aveze ubufakazi. Njengoba uzweveza ukuthi uMinister ungene kumkhakha okungeyona wakhe. Umkhakha wakhe yena udila namapholisi, akadili ne-operations. Ingakho uJustice Madlanga eze wambuzisisa ngoba isigaba ebesengene kuso mayesephazamisa i-political killing task team bese kwisigaba sika-National Commissioner. So bengithi nje angiyikhave le part ngoba inhloso yami njengoba ngishilo mangiqala ngathi zimbili sengithi intathu zimbili izinto engifisa ukuziveza la. Into yokuqala ebengifisa ukuyiveza la ukuthi kungani uGeneral Mkhwanazi wakhetha kuye ukwenza i-media briefing wangalandela i-procedure ngoba ikhona i-procedure afuneka ayilandela semaphoyiseni uma kunenkinga phakathi. Okwesibili ukuthi ngiveze udaba likaBaba uSenzo Mchunu. Ngicabanga ukuthi asibambe la bese mina nawe sidibana kwivideo elandelayo. Ngiyabonga.